Before every coaching call with a client, I do the same thing. I call my bookkeeper. Where are the books? What's open? What do I need to know before I sit down with them? 5 minutes, sometimes 10. Feels like due diligence. It feels like I'm prepping. And in a sense, I am. But I didn't see what was really happening for years. That conversation isn't the work. It's the cost of getting current on context that already exists somewhere in my practice. It's in my bookkeeper's head. It's in their work papers. It's scattered across a Slack message from Tuesday and in an email note. I'm just paying the price to move that information from their brain into mine. That's a tax. And every CAS practice pays it dozens of times every single day. Let me show you what I mean. Here's every handoff in a typical workflow. Bookkeeper briefs the accountant on where the file stands. Accountant briefs the partner before a client meeting. Partner checks in with a tax specialist on a question that came up last week. Someone writes up notes so the next person can pick up a task they've never touched. Someone else rereads email threads to reconstruct context from Friday that they lost over the weekend. On a timesheet, none of this shows up as overhead. It looks like client work. It looks like teamwork, good management even. But it's a tax, and it compounds. Here's what makes CAS different from, say, a tech company with a coordination problem. A product team coordinates around one product. Your team coordinates around 30, 50, maybe 100 clients, each with different status, different open items, different history, different quirks. The context switching isn't just between people, it's between people and clients, constantly. Every time you ask, where are we with the Smith file? Well, that's a tax payment. Multiply that by your client count and your team size, and this invisible tax becomes the single largest non-billable cost in your entire practice. I'd estimate, and I'm being conservative here, that my team spends 10 to 15 hours every single week on coordination events. Not doing the work, moving context around so someone else can do their work. That's a quarter of our productive capacity. Gone. Not to client service, but to the friction of being a team serving multiple clients. Now, here's what's really frustrating. The information isn't missing. My bookkeeper knows where the books stand. The accountant remembers the client mentioned a new equipment purchase. I remember the client's risk tolerance from the last advisory meeting. The tax specialist has notes on a filing question from 2 weeks ago. All of that context exists in the practice. It's just distributed across heads, email threads, Slack messages, work paper notes, half-remembered conversations. The coordination tax is the cost of reassembling it every single time someone else needs it. We are not creating information. We're moving it from person to person over and over again because there's no other way to access it. Or there wasn't. Now, here's where context engineering stops being a concept and becomes an operational advantage. If your practice builds structured, machine-readable context, client profiles with current status, standardized work papers that AI can read, handoff notes in a format that persists, the pre-meeting briefing changes completely. Instead of calling my bookkeeper, I get a 30-second AI summary. Here's where the books stand. Here are the 3 open items. Here's what changed since your last meeting with this client. The bookkeeper's time is freed up. My time is freed up. The context was always there. It just needed to be accessible without a human intermediary. And unlike a verbal briefing, AI context doesn't degrade. Doesn't forget Tuesday's update by Thursday. It accumulates. Every note, every resolved issue makes the next briefing more complete. The coordination tax doesn't just drop. It drops further every single month as the context layer deepens. Here's the thing. This isn't a technology problem. The AI to do this exists today, right now. The barrier is the same one that holds back every rebuild. You have to build the structured context first. Write the client profiles, standardize the handoff notes, create the machine-readable layer that AI can work with. That's context engineering. I know it feels like overhead when you're already buried, but consider what you're currently paying instead. Every hour your team spends briefing each other is an hour they're not spending on the actual client work. Every verbal handoff is a chance for context to get lost. You're already paying the tax. Next time you catch yourself asking, where are we with this client? Notice the tax. Then ask yourself whether that answer could have been waiting for you before you needed to ask it. I built a structured version of this audit to walk you through your week and identify every coordination event, every briefing, every status check, every context handoff. Then it calculates what it's costing your practice in real dollars. It's called the Coordination Tax Audit. It's free at the aiaccountant.ai/coordination-tax. Run it once, share it with your team. Let the numbers speak. You'll find it on my blog page for this video or article. It's in a section reserved for newsletter subscribers. So if you're not a newsletter subscriber, simply subscribe, and then you'll be able to copy and paste that prompt. I've also created a simple handout that you can share at your next team meeting to help you illustrate and discuss this tax that you are already paying. See you tomorrow.